Over 70% av alle nye nettsider laget kun for å svindle oss. Du sikker på at du klarer å gjennomskue alle?
For sikkerhetens skyld har vi inkludert viktige sikkerhetstjenester i våre mobilabonnement, slik at du blant annet kan surfe sikrere. Bli tryggere med mobilabonnement fra Telenor. Se telenor.no.
Tyrant fra USA ut med det første albumet sitt på 24 år, og i den anledning tok jeg en telefon til bassist Greg May og vokalist Rob Lowe. Jeg heter Helle Steinkløv, og du hører på Jernverket. Før vi kjører intervju har jeg en beskjed til. For at Jernverket skal overleve som podcast trengs det midler, så jeg har opprettet en Patreon-side og en Vipps-konto. Så om du vil bidra med noen slanter for å holde Jernverket flytende, hadde jeg satt enormt stor pris på det. Du kan bidra månedlig via Jernverket-sida på patreon.com eller gi en enkeltsum via Vipps-nummer 567438. Beløpet selvsagt valgfritt. All informasjon står nederst i episodebeskrivelser med en lenke som fører etter kassen. Igjen, tusen takk for alle bidragene så langt. Jeg klarer ikke herre uten deg. Og du, Jernverket og Munnvoll skal lansere en chilisaus sammen med chili og tomatillo fra haggene til Jernverket og godis fra arkivet til Munnvoll. Akkurat nå kjører vi en navnekonkurranse. Hva skal sausen hete? Gå inn på Facebook og Instagram for å delta, og du kan vinne en flask når sausen kommer. So, hi guys. How are you doing?
Hey. Good. Great to see everybody.
Yeah, how's the corona situation over in the US?
It's, bad and okay, actually. Some areas aren't as impacted with people, and those areas seem to be okay. That's kind of where I am. I'm in the suburbs of Los Angeles. Downtown Los Angeles, people are elbow to elbow, not too good. But this governor of California has put everybody on lockdown for the last couple of weeks. Traffic isn't so bad as it usually is, and seems to be making a difference.
How about you, Rob?
Yeah. Part of AZ I'm at. I'm a little bit southeast of Phoenix, and it's not horrible. I mean, people are still dropping left and right, but it's not so bad. And we're not really on lockdown. It's just kind of voluntary, stay at home type of thing.
It means you guys can't go on tour with your new album, but we'll...
Exactly. Yeah, we've had invitations to do so. We actually having to cancel a big festival next month that I had booked. It was a Doom Fest in New England, and that's up in the New York area, East Coast area, and they're the hardest hit. They literally have had, I think, 100 people a day since the thing has begun. For the United States, that's the most dangerous area. But Tyrant didn't cancel. We were going to go in, and we were dying to play and promote this album. But we got the word from the promoter. He called me and said, Greg, I want to put it at 2021 and keep everything the same. So they're just transferring our flights to next year and hoping that it'll be all alleviated by then.
Yeah, a lot of festivals have done that, I've seen. So hopefully 2021 will be the year. But let's talk music. Can't you just give me a short description of who you are and what you do in the band Tyrant, Greg?
Well, I'm the bass player. I started the group my last year of high school. I'd been taking bass lessons when I was 16. That was 1976. I was a football player, grew up in a family from Texas, and grew up thinking that's what I was going to do. That's how I was going to get my college paid for. And found out different. I was a little too small, a little too slow, even though I could put the helmet to people pretty well. I decided I would have to find a new way once I started seeing that the door was going to close on me for football. So I picked up a bass, taken some lessons, and by the time I was a senior, I was playing the parties after the football games. Take off my football uniform, pick up my bass, and go jam. And had a lot of fun playing all the early covers. A lot of times people didn't even know who these bands were. I was, luckily able to find, early Scorpions, early Judas Priest, UFO, of course, Black Sabbath, Rainbow. These bands were all my idols. And started out by playing their material and as a cover band. And like I say, a lot of times we'd have a good, sized party going and we'd be playing it. It kind of morphed into, once you start having command of other people's material like that, you kind of get tired of hearing people just yelling for Iron Maiden or Scorpions, Black Sabbath. Now I'm the one lugging my equipment. I want you to start yelling for Tyrant. Anyway, and it was called Tyrant then. The logo wasn't quite the same. That also changed. But it was Tyrant then because I was kind of a headstrong guy, and I kind of got labeled that. I wasn't going to play any Kiss or Cheap Trick. I was really going to play just this early Scorpions, Black Sabbath sort of style. And it kind of morphed me into the Tyrant. I said that... the stuff that we're not going to be playing any Leonard Skinner. I'm sorry, even though they're great, but it's just not going to be this band style. And so anyways, so I started the band. It morphed into bringing in my brother once his football career was done. He was also playing ball, and I said, let's bring you over and get you all decked out in leather. I kind of created the monster, brought him into my room, decked him all out with leather. Things that would fit him. Told the other singer to stay home. And I called Rocky and Rob Roy at the time. I said, I got a surprise for you guys tonight. And we came in and we said, we're going to start working on all originals. And no more covers. So it took us about a year to really get that look together that you see on the cover of Legions of the Dead album. To really have a look and original material and sound. And not to take too long with it, but by 83, we were able to start hitting the clubs on the infamous Sunset Strip, where people were lined up, by the mile, metalheads. It had since disappeared like a herd of cattle gone to slaughter. But at the time, it was just people, endless people, metalheads, for everything, from Guns N' Roses to Slayer. To our shows and then to Guns N' Roses and Mötley Crüe. I mean, it was just crazy. It was such a fun time to be there. That was awesome. Because sometimes you'd have, fans crossing over and coming to our shows and our shows going to theirs just for the hell of it. But 83, Metal Blade showed up at one of our shows that we finally had got. It was like I think the second show we played out there. Moving on from the Pasadena area. Van Halen country, they call it. That's where we started out. And but we went out to the Strip, and next thing you know, Brian Slagle, Bill Montoya, some other executives of Metal Blade were there. And right away we were signed. Bang. I was 23, Rocky was 22, and I think Glenn was 18. They let him into the club. He was 21 and over, but he was so big that they didn't ask him for his ID. and then bang. We got signed to do Metal Massacre 3. So from 78 to 83 went by in a flash, but I went from just starting to play really pretty much to now I'm going into a recording studio with Bill Montoya and putting that first song on Metal Massacre. And then the whole Metal Blade ran its course. Ran with Metal Blade and we did well. Had a comeback record in 96 because in the middle of the 90s everything shut down out here. It was just all Nirvana, Alice in Chains, which I didn't mind because it killed off a lot of the hair metal like Faster Pussycat and really Guns N' Roses. Most of their careers kind of died in the 90s. And I wasn't into that anyway. The grunge music was actually a little heavier. I liked Alice in Chains. But most of those bands literally died. Alice in Chains, a couple of guys died. I think Nirvana, a guy, one of them at least died. And so metal just started dying, basically. And then rap was coming up, and then I got a call from Germany in 96 that said, hey, we got to get a new Tyrant album going, I'm like, wow, really? I think it came in on a fax machine.
Yeah, because it had been 10 years without any albums, almost, or was it 88?
24. 23, 24 out.
Oh, I thought you talked about 96 now.
It was 96. 96 was when our third album came out.
Yeah. I'm referring to the two first albums and the 96 album. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's when I had heard of Robert when he was in Solitude Aeternus, was in the 90s. Because I would see reviews of our record, and then I would see reviews of his, right next to it. And I got to check these guys out because they were saying, similar stuff. They weren't thrash, they weren't speed, they were just straight up in your face metal. And I thought, wow, kind of, like our style. And that's really when I got turned on to Rob's music, and I was going, wow, these guys are good. I was actually hoping to play with us, our band and his band. And I was a big fan of Rob's voice. He's a great singer. So that's the 90s. In the 90s, that's when it happened, when I kind of heard about Rob. And then it died down again. 2000 wasn't really, huge metal. We started doing actually some, for Dwell Records, we signed a multi-album deal to do their tribute CDs. Go in the studio and do a song from Black Sabbath and Scorpions, Judas Priest. That was kind of fun. We did that all through the 90s. Just staying busy, Then a long story short, we were called up to play a Kit Festival in 2009, headline, with old friends of ours, Abattoir and Lizzie Borden. It was like a high school reunion, These guys we were playing with all the time back in the Metal Blade days, and they were from this area too, so we played quite a bit with those guys. And they said, get the original members together. So 2009, I got married in 91. The other guys got married, had kids. I had a kid. We kind of settled into our careers. Everybody had something going, because the metal wasn't so big. It was something that was always in our hearts, but it wasn't really something that was, paying our mortgage. So we kind of had to find other talents. Like Rocky would put cars back together, the car motors. I'd go over there and I'd worry about his fingers. They'd be all like, bleeding and covered with oil and grease. He'd be in there rebuilding motors with a cigarette in his mouth. I'm like, and we would still talk. I'm like, dude, don't get your fingers cut off. You're going to need them again someday. He's like, yeah, when?
I'm sorry to cut you off, but Rob, do you think you can... I don't know if no, it's probably not possible to mute your microphone, because when you move, there's a lot of noise. I think it's coming from. It's distorting. Okay. No, maybe it's the wind. Sorry to interrupt you, Greg. Just
oh no.
Go on.
We really got to the end of it.
Yeah.
2009 saw us come back and headline in Germany. And we hadn't played together in years, as a band, especially with Rob Roy, our original drummer. We hadn't even seen him in years. But we were lucky to find him, get a studio. He had to learn songs from the other albums to do the set in Germany. And it was really cool. To get us all, the original members together, put a set list together of all our favorite songs, and then go over there and headline. It was packed. We got a lot of positive feedback from the fans, promoters, everybody. That was one of their biggest shows. And they're saying, you guys got to come back at some point with a new record. And at that time, we were just, scrambling to put a set together to play. It was kind of something we hadn't even thought of. But then as time went on, me and Rocky were talking more and more about, I've got some songs. Here we are. We started we were playing festivals every year along the way. But me and Rocky would get together with our drummer, Ronnie Wallace. Ronnie Wallace came in 2010 when we did some festivals in New York in 2010. Rob dropped off right away. He did all he could to help us in Germany, and after that he was gone. So we found this Ronnie Wallace, friend of Glenn's, brought him in. And we started working on new material, on our own time. And next thing you know, we've got Hereafter, which I guess you've heard. You must have heard it in its entirety.
Yeah. 24 years between this album and the last one. But
exactly. Can you believe it?
No, actually not. I think that it must... I don't know how it feels to be out with a new album so many years later. Do you get kind of nervous thinking about the jump, or do you feel that you have to prove anything for the fans after all these years?
No, you know, all I was thinking, Rocky was thinking at the time, you know, this is before Robert came in, we needed some new metal to hear, period. And if it's our metal, even better. We didn't even worry if we sold like 0 CDs because no one liked us or liked metal anymore. We didn't care. We just wanted to create some new metal so we could jam them in our cars driving around. And because Sabbath had died, Priest died, well, kind of, the original guitar players aren't there. Sabbath died, now Slayer's gone. I mean, people that we grew up liking or some like Slayer jamming with are now done. So who's going to carry the torch? Sabotage is one of my favorite bands ever. Someone there died, the guitarist died. I mean, who else is going to create this stuff? So we were pretty much doing it and playing it just for our own enjoyment. And if other people jumped on and liked it, so be it. If they didn't, hey, we liked it. You know, so, yeah. And then once Robert got in, it was really the icing on the cake.
Yeah,
it was so cool. It's been great.
What is the sound back there? It distorts. It sounds like a chair being dragged. Can you guys hear it, or is it just me?
Yeah.
I ain't got no clue. I'm sitting there in the chair. It could be that fucking Lowe's delivery truck over there.
Yeah, it might be, because it disappeared now. Yeah, weird.
Well, so here we are.
Yeah.
I brought you up to date, but yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, very good, very good. Now you spared me for a lot of the questions I actually had. But the circle is now full because Rob, who you heard and liked in the mid-90s, he's now in the band. And Rob, how did you end up in Tyrant? And do you remember the first time you heard Tyrant?
Yeah, as a matter of fact. Is that noise any better?
It's it's gone.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. I guess I have to be going outside. Anyhow. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the funny thing about Tyrant is when Solitude first got together, we always had, the rehearsal at my house because I had a big enough place for everybody to rehearse. So, on the weekends we'd get together in the early days and rehearse and practice, play, and drink a buttload of beer and whatnot. And John Perez comes over one night with, I think it was Kings, because we would always listen to just random metal bands of the day. He came over, he's like, I got this new band, Tyrant, man, we need to check this shit out. So we put it on the stereo, so we're all sitting around going, man, some good metal, blah, blah, blah. And so that was my first introduction to Tyrant, was back in the day, the early 90s. And, it is what it is. So gave it an ear, talked about it. I know John was into Tyrant at the time, when everything, we were all fresh, fresh out of the, so that was the first introduction. And here we are now. Greg gave me a call one afternoon. And we just started shooting crap. And this thing, bam, what we can do. And I was like, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah. So, but you've been called the disciple or the voice of doom, and that's quite a title to bring with you as a musician.
I don't even think about it really.
You have your shirt with, I think it read "Voice of Doom" or so. I do. Disciple of Doom. Yeah, Disciple of Doom. Yeah. You care a little bit.
Well, actually, I got up and my alarm went off, and apparently I turned it off, and I woke up like 2 minutes before 12. I was like, oh shit, grab a shirt, and this happened to be the one I grabbed that was laying over there. I don't know. Maybe it's appropriate.
But can you tell me about the new album Hereafter? How have you been working with this? It took some years from the Keep It True show up until the actual release, and Rob too has been in the band for almost 3 years now. So how did you work with the songwriting and everything around this?
Okay. All right. This was a lot of fun, I have to say. It all just fell together so easy, and everyone just got along real good. We actually had a hard time not having it just turn into a party when we'd get together and have to buckle down and get some work done. We had to kind of try to keep our nose to the grindstone. We all got along good and raised a few pints, as I like to say, in celebration. But what happened was, like I say, we finally came down to having all this new music written. I mean, we had the 10 songs, and then we added Revelations later once we were in the studio. But that was just a part of Dancing on Graves, so that was easy to do. But once me and Rocky and then Ronnie, we had the whole album already written. We're like, man, and we loved this material. We loved playing it live. It was really vibrant music. I mean, even though it has been 2.5 decades since the last album has been out, you'd think that we'd all be in wheelchairs and on walkers or maybe in old folks' homes, but we're not. We're all standing tall and we're ready to go with anybody anytime. And that's actually a testament to keeping our health and not letting the partying of the 80s drag anybody down or put them away for good. So we gave Glenn, when I talked to Glenn, I said, hey, we got offered, of course, again, another big festival in Ventura, California out here, the Frost and Fire, where we were to play with, to play with Night Demon and Sean Peck's group Cage, and it was really going to be great. It was really going to be great. A lot of Southern California metal, people who have been known internationally like us. And to go out and play that same set that we've been playing since 2009 would have just been a downer, really. I mean, they've already heard all this stuff. It was pretty much along the same set we were playing in the 80s, too. So, me and Rocky talked, and we said, we got to give Glenn an ultimatum and tell him, look, we want to come out with this all-new material now. And really, it's in Southern California. It's like a restart. Let's see if he's ready, if he's even started on this stuff. And he's, granted, he's working nights in a hospital. I mean, not fun stuff, believe me. And I gave him like 5 years to get it going. Anyone else would have had 5 months, And but we had to. It was time now. It's just the fuse had run out and it was time to explode. And musically we were ready because we were firing on all cylinders. The demo sounded pretty good just musically. So. We told him, hey, we got the show coming up. This is going to be it. We're coming out with all new material. That's it. Be ready. And then he pretty much given the word, even more to Rocky than to me, that there's just no way he could do it. He's just not ready. He doesn't have the time, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? I had an ace up my sleeve. I had an ace up my sleeve like I always do. Okay. And I always CYA. That's known out here as LA talk as covering your ass. And so I called Rob and I said, hey, dude, you doing anything? And he's like, I got some projects here and there, but what's up? And we'd always talked, Mutual Admiration Society, over the years on Facebook, and I'd always liked his stuff. He always liked mine. And I said, well, me and Rocky have been grinding away on some pretty potent material out here. With a drummer, can I send you a disc? And sure. So I sent Rob out the disc, and about a week he gets back to me. He just says, "Bam." That's kind of Rob's calling card for that sounds happening. He said, "Bam," and I said, "Yeah." He said, "Let's do it. Let's do it." So it took a while to kind of get everything rolling, but it came down to almost time for the show. And I said, well, let's fly you out to L.A. and have a quick jam on this new stuff. We're going to jam here in the area where we live and then take that drive. It's about close to 2 hours and a really cool venue. I'd seen UFO there before. It's called the historic Ventura Theater. It's like a 100-plus-year-old theater that we headlined. It was basically a small arena. And it was pretty exciting stuff. So we got together and we jammed with Rob. And Rob comes walking in. Rocky and Ronnie knew nothing about it, about the ace up my sleeve. And they weren't down with this previous material. I wouldn't say caught in just the now, but maybe they weren't into Facebook as much. Or, because of Facebook, I was really able to reach out and find Rob and do all that kind of, networking as I do as a manager. So when Rob walked in, I said, "Hey, this is Rob Lowe. He's gonna do the gig with us tonight." They're like, "Oh, all right," and the great thing, well, because Glenn hadn't been around anyway, so we knew I was going to do something, or else I would have had to cancel the show, which I didn't want to do because it was a very big show for us. And so next thing you know, Rob comes in, and at this time, the good part about it was there were no wrong vocals, right, Rob? There was no wrong vocals. There were no wrong song titles.
There was nothing screw up at all.
Yeah, exactly. There was nothing wrong because there was nothing right. So we just jammed. And then during that rehearsal, but this is out of our ass. This is so at the rehearsal though. We did do a rehearsal first. With Rob, so we could get a feel of what it was going to be like once we went up on stage. We booked a studio out here. That was great. We kind of got us set.
That was the first time I had met any of these people ever, besides Greg on the phone. It's like 2 hours before the show.
Yep. Seriously?
So I'm standing outside, smoke, right? And Rocky pulls up in his, I guess, was it that band? That band?
Marshall Saxon.
Yeah, got his bandana on. And we're at a rehearsal studio, so musicians are going to come and go anyway. Yep. Dude walks up, comes by, and I'm just like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Hey, what's up?" He didn't even know. hello.
He didn't know he was jamming with him. He didn't know he was going to jam with Rob. He's like, some dude stand out front. And they say, "No, Rob comes walking in, grabs a microphone." It was great. But you know how Rob opens up his diaphragm? That's how I like to say it. Rob has a different style from other singers who will kind of always sing in that same range or volume. But Rob has that extra gear where he opens up his diaphragm and boom, his voice comes out. So here we are jamming on this stuff for the first time, and Rob's kind of just getting a feel for it. But then at some point during the song, he'll open up and then Rocky would look at me and Ronnie look at him and they look at each other and they look at me and they nod their head, They're like, yeah, I can hear the potential. And when he would open up that voice and it would come out, and it was just really cool. So we took that hour and a half drive. Rob was with me. And of course, I kept cranking the demo all the way there. And he's singing along with it, and we're just having all kinds of fun. And the fans had no idea what was to lie, about 5 hours from then. When we'd hit the stage, it would be no more Glenn. It would be Rob, and it would be no more Warriors of Metal, Battle of Armageddon, Legions of the Dead. It was just all this new hereafter material. And the band, we were elated at that point to start new.
What did the fans think? They probably expected old stuff and...
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They were in shock. They were in shock, but they cheered after every song. So they welcomed in the new era, for sure. But they were kind of, after the set, some of them hung around. They're like, "Oh, that would have been great if you could have done some of the old stuff too." And I'm like, "Well, give it time."
It's a big risk to take.
Yeah. We've been around for so long.
Do it. Just fucking do it.
Yeah, we've been around for so long. What was the risk? We really had those songs already bought and sold since the 80s. We kind of knew they'd go over. Those songs were all over. It was getting a new start that was more important. And Rob, to us, just showed balls. To watch my language, I guess, in front of a lady, but
I'm Norwegian, I don't care.
Okay. I'm just saying, for us as a band and for Rob as a singer, a new guy just flying in and walking up on stage with us, just as a band and Rob, we showed balls the size of basketballs. I mean,
it was literally.
What band does that?
I flew in.
Yeah.
Like I said, met the fellas. I mean, obviously I met Greg. Hi, I met him like 24 hours prior.
Yeah.
Do the rehearsal thing and then drive straight to the venue. And then we had the headline that night, so we just got up there and went, all right, you ready? You ready? Yeah. All right, let's go. Bam. And it was done. Super
And
cool.
we had a blast. After we did it, me and Rob went back to the hotel, and we stayed out there. The rest of the guys drove back to L.A., but me and Rob had a hotel and a few cold ones. And we just hung out saying, man, it felt so good, and it has so much potential. I mean, once we started putting time in to get the vocals right and to get the songs wrapped around the vocals, we knew that we really had something, had something special. And that's what kept us pushing forward.
But what are you going to do now as the album is coming out May 15th? And of course, you cannot tour right now to show it to the fans. What are you going to do to promote it as a band? Are you doing anything on the internet, or are you just putting it out there and waiting to see what happens?
Well, I've already been talking to the... Yeah, no worries. I think worried to Tyrant is a waste of time. What's there to worry about? We have our album. It's in the can. It's done. We have a great record company. Have you heard of Red Distribution?
I've heard the name, yeah.
Yeah, they're the ones who do Metal Blade and Nuclear Blast and even some major labels. They're the best distribution you can have, especially for metal. We're going to be everywhere in the world, pretty much. And we're already getting reviews from around the world. Germany, and have come in, Portugal, just crazy places. The label, this Shadow Kingdom label, is doing a great job for us. They have sent digital downloads to everybody. So the reviews are coming in already from around the world, and they like it, which is great. It causes us not to worry. We've been getting 10 out of 10s. They all think Rob's just an amazing addition to our heavy music. It's like they're wondering, it's funny, they were wondering, did we write the music for Rob?
Did you?
No. The songs were done. Probably the last song was done probably 7 months before I ever reached out to Rob. He's just a perfect fit.
I can see him smiling over there.
Yeah. Yeah, no real worries. We just have to go with the flow. Probably everything of the playing will be next year. By then the record will have really saturated into people. They'll probably be singing our lyrics when we come out and play,
But does this mean that you don't want to play the old stuff anymore at all? Like your two first albums are quite legendary, and the '96 album too came out good. So, will you put these away from for us forever?
No, the thing is, Ozzy. I always look at it like Sabbath. They had all that history with Ozzy, and then Ozzy was gone, and Dio came in, and now they made another history. It's kind of what we're going to do here. But if you notice, I think. Dio never had any problems going back and doing War Pigs and, Paranoid and Iron Man and some of the big songs that got the band interest in the beginning. So, the Doomfest actually had requested, they were going to put it in the contract, I said, don't worry about it, that we do 30 minutes of the original Tyrant. Because they hadn't heard Hereafter yet. They asked us pretty much on our laurels. On our early material, because that's really only what anyone knew.
Yeah, of course.
And I said, well, we've got a new record coming out. We got Robert Lowe singing, and that's really what we wanted to promote. So then I brought all that up. But yeah, they wanted 30 minutes of at least of the old material, and most of the promoters and fans do. So that's not going to be a problem. I can't wait to hear Rob do a spin on it. But it'll be great to hear Warriors of Metal and all these songs with Rob singing. I think the fans are going to love it.
What do you think about that, Rob? You looking forward to doing your own versions of the old songs?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course. Obviously, we'll stick to the nuts and bolts of it, but it's going to be, me on vocals. But it's not going to be like we're going to take it and go out to left field with it. It'll be,
yeah,
because it's what the fans want. I mean, I'm no different than anybody else either. When it comes to a band changing vocalists and then they go and do the old song, if you're going to do it your way, but don't change it, because I like that version from 1942. You know what I'm saying? That's the one.
Well, you've done that. You got experience with that.
People aren't going to be
from Calvin's.
What the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell?
That's what I was thinking.
They'll know.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. He's probably done it before with Candleman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, you think?
He's singing better, though, of course.
Not the first time.
Probably singing better.
Over 70% av alle nye nettsider laget kun for å svindle oss. Du sikker på at du klarer å gjennomskue alle?
For sikkerhetens skyld har vi inkludert viktige sikkerhetstjenester i våre mobilabonnement, slik at du blant annet kan surfe sikrere. Bli tryggere med mobilabonnement fra Telenor. Se telenor.no.
Kiwi jobber hver dag for å være Norges billigste lavpriskjede, og nå presser vi prisene på hundrevis av julevarer. På 1–1,5 kilo Lerøy lutefisk av torsk presser vi prisen fra 159 helt ned til 149 per kilo. På 300 gram Lerøy laksefilet uten skinn presser vi prisen fra 99 helt ned til 79,90. Prisene gjelder helt fram til 31. desember. For det vi som prispresserne, og vi i Kiwi gir oss aldri på pris. God jul!
But as you guys are storytellers, apparently, we've already been through your history and the writing of the new album and what's happening now in the future. But we need some good old stories, the kind of stories from the road, the fun one, the embarrassing ones, Spinal Tap ones. Do you have any of those you want to share with the listeners? It can be an old one, but it could also be a new one.
Well, you got to remember that our heyday was really during the 80s.
We love hearing about that.
The 80s were crazy. Let's just face it. And we would go backstage and after our set, and the guys from Wasp were there, Quiet Riot, all these other bands were always at our shows, and hanging out. Or Great White, the singer for Great White, me and Rocky couldn't get away from him. He was like chasing us around. These kind of stories sometimes aren't for the ears of children as well. There are some pretty crazy stories and things that happened in those days. But one very funny one was one where Glenn was dating the same girl as the singer for Metallica, James Hetfield.
Oh. Yeah. And we ended up at the same party with Metallica. I'll do the Metallica one because everybody knows who they are. And this girl was throwing the party, and we showed up, Metallica showed up. And back then, they weren't any big deal. I mean, they're just another band. Early 80s.
Became a big deal. Yeah, they became a big deal later whenever they ran into that guy in New York, the Johnny Z. They didn't, if you notice, they didn't go with Metal Blade. They went with this Johnny Z guy out in New York. Megaforce Records. Mm. So, long story, So they knew something. So anyways, long story short, we both end up at this party, and Glenn and Hetfield were kind of sizing each other up, and they had both, been invited to Mount Olympus. It's a very rich area up in the Hollywood Hills, and this 6-foot blonde had invited both of them, and they were both kind of vying for the attention of her, at this party, and they're kind of wondering, they didn't know that they were both dating her, Yeah. And we were kind of waiting for Glenn to kick his ass or something, but no, Glenn was just holding back, being quiet like he usually does. He kind of has a long fuse. And he was letting Hetfields say all his thing about how they were, headlining up north, and starting to set the world on fire and all this. And we're kind of, yeah, right, And so next thing you know, the guy's just talking, never stopping. And he puts his beer down, and he goes into the bathroom. And Glenn's like, watch this, guys. And his beer was about half full. Let's just say that Glenn walked over and filled the beer. Not with beer. With piss. With piss. In front of everybody. In front of everybody. Yeah, in front of everybody, including the girlfriend, this girl. And she just laughed her ass off. Everybody did that. Glenn would just roll up and do that, and trying not to spill it so he would know. And he put the beer back down, and then Glenn zips up, goes back, sits back down. And Hetfield comes out of the bathroom, sits back down, grabs that beer, and just starts pounding it. The whole place is just falling apart. Falling down. Yeah. And the girlfriend's like, oh, gross. She for sure wasn't going to be kissing him at the end of the night. And Glenn got lucky. He took her home that night. But, yeah, that was probably one of the funniest things that had happened. We still talk about it to this day. He didn't realize how warm his beer was, But he was still pounding it down.
What's funny? I got a similar story to that, but it wasn't quite as unfair. We were on our little mini tour bus. I think we were doing the commercial state tour, and you know how it is. I mean, they've got their big old tour buses. We're in the little Ford Econoline 150 falling behind them. We couldn't stop to piss like we needed to when you're driving halfway across the world from California to New York.
Oh, wow.
And so we go to the back of the van where I had proceeded to take all the seats out so we would have some room. We had no seats in the van either. And I got up. I had to piss, man. I was just like, son of a bitch. Fucking beer. So I found an empty Gatorade bottle.
Nice.
Back, did my business, filled up the bottle, yada, yada. And some guys were asleep, and we weren't going to stop. We couldn't stop. So I took and went out and hide this Gatorade bottle in the back corner behind all these old clothes and some, instruments and whatnot. So nobody would find it. And next time we stop, I just take it and throw it away. Well, I ended up going up to the front to help the driver with navigation and so forth. And I hear Lyle wake up in the back. Well, and I didn't mean to say Lyle. I wasn't going to give names, so we can forget that. But so I hear him rooting around in the back of the van, and I look back, and next thing I know, I see him sitting back there guzzling this fucking bottle of Gatorade.
No.
Fucking drink that.
Another one.
Oh. Too late. Went too late. Oh, God.
It's that coloring, I guess.
Kind of figured out what it was after a second. Don't go digging when you're not supposed to be digging.
The golden color.
I like that you came up with two piss stories.
Yeah. It's a common thing. Drink that much beer, you're going to have piss.
Actually, shit, I got so many I forgot about. It's crazy.
Yeah, I have some pretty gnarly ones, too.
But you don't want to tell them?
Yeah, they're pretty gnarly.
Do tell one, please.
Yeah. Okay, we were playing with Slayer. This is when they first came up. Had just come up. And we were at this club where everybody had the same backstage room. It was us and Slayer and I think Bitch. Bitch was there too. It was all like the Metal Massacre 3 record where we first come out. And I think Bitch came on first, then us, and then Slayer headlined. I don't know why they had headlined. I guess because it was in Orange County and they were from Orange County. So we're all in this backstage room. And we all show up, just like in, jeans and T-shirts. But if you look at our gear, I mean, we literally had gear. I mean, like, we wore like pounds of black leather and studs and all that stuff, and they really weren't at the time. They were kind of jeans and T-shirts at that time. I think Terry wore some stuff, but they didn't get into all that till later on for some reason. But we came in and we're kind of looking around. We didn't see Betsy in there, but we're like, guys, we gotta change, man. We gotta change. We're all in the same room together, and we gotta pretty much, all of us have to strip, to get leathered up. And one of the guys in the band, I don't want to say who, said, go ahead. And we kind of thought that they'd leave the room for a while, and go do something else and let us change. But they all just stayed right there with us, and some of the guys in bitch too. They stayed right there. It's like, wow, really? It's like, whatever. So we just all stripped naked, and we're looking at these guys and they're just sitting right there looking at us. And it was like, what the, so at first we were kind of like in awe of what was going on. And then we kind of been like, wow, are you guys fruitcakes or something? It's like, really? Those kind of words. Like I said, I don't want to expand too much on what we told them. But you guys is that how you guys roll? You want to see Tyrant naked? Is that a big deal to you guys? And we kind of ended up, talking back and forth a little bit. And then after that, we basically told them, get the F out of here. This is too weird. It's too odd to be sitting here naked in front of other guys. And, like I say, Slayer, they're not the biggest guys in the world. they got the message to get the hell out. So eventually they did. But I remember that at the time was just so odd. It's like, why would you? We told them that we were going to strip, and they said, go ahead. And it's like, wow, that was a story.
I want to see my own thing.
Exactly. Well, back then we were young studs, in our 20s. Where, all right, you want to see it? Here we are, kind of young bucks. But it was so odd that they would stick around while told them we were going to get naked and have to put on all our leather. And they said, go ahead. It was funny. It wasn't just Slayer either. It was at least one other band that was in there too. And so that was always something we talked about to this day. It's like, wow, yeah, we had to strip in front of this other band. I get it that there was only one backstage room, but people could leave for a while and come back, but they didn't. They just said, go for it. So, oh, man.
You've been on tour a while when you don't care about people getting naked in front of you.
Yeah. We're familiar with, the female fans being down with that. But, but the male fans, that was really odd. It was very odd.
Du har hørt et intervju med Tyrant. Neste vekka hører vi siste nytt fra Ole Helstad, som spiller i Sæver og Kite, og booker for Revolver og Høstsabbat.
Og kommer og lander i Krakow, og vi skulle bli plukket opp da, og så fort vi får signal på mobilen igjen, og står og venter på bagasjen, så får vi en mail fra booking. Ok, alle de 5 første gigsa i Øst-Europa avlyst, fortsett fra Budapest.
Abonner på Jernverket podcast via podcast-app eller gå inn på jernverket.com. Der ligger det 88 episoder du kan kose deg med, som kjekt å ha når smittefaren fortsatt lurer bak hvert et hjørne, og du ikke har så mye annet å gjøre lell. Du må I hvert fall holde deg unna folk, så del det med kompisene dine og spre metal, ikke virus. Om du vil bidra med litt kronasj for at jeg skal kunne fortsette, kan du gi støtte via Patreon eller Vips. Og det kult om du slenger inn en god anmeldelse av podden der du lytter. Husk på å følge Jernverket på Instagram og Facebook for konkurranser, diskusjoner og musikalske tips. Jeg vil blant annet nevne at Jernverket og Munnvoll skal lansere en chilisaus sammen, der du kan komme med forslag til hva sausen skal hete. Gå inn på Facebook og Instagram for å delta, og du kan vinne en flask når sausen kommer. Jeg heter Helle Stenkløv og gir deg et nytt eller gammelt hardrock-intervju hver fredag. Vi høres!
Hittil i år har Telenor stoppet over 20 millioner svindelanrop. Vet du hvilke nummer du kan stole på?
For sikkerhetens skyld har vi inkludert viktige sikkerhetstjenester i våre mobilabonnement, slik at du blant annet skal kunne føle deg litt tryggere når det ringer fra ukjente nummer. Bli tryggere med mobilabonnement fra Telenor. Se Telenor.no.